The courtroom air, thick with stale coffee and desperation, shatters like glass. A woman in a cream cashmere coat leans toward the microphone, diamond bracelet glinting under the fluorescence, and lets out a laugh so cold it draws every eye. "You're fining me for parking while my husband was voting on the defense budget." She adjusts her sunglasses, voice dripping with amused disdain. "Honestly, Judge, do you even know who I am?" The gallery holds its breath. Then a pause, slow, deliberate. Judge Frank Caprio doesn't rise, doesn't frown. He simply lifts his gaze, those kind eyes sharpening into something unbreakable. His voice quiet as a vow. "In this courtroom, ma'am, I know only one thing. Every person before me is equal. Title or trauma, it doesn't matter. Justice doesn't bow." A beat. The woman's smirk flickers, because in that silence something shifted. This wasn't going to be a fine. This was going to be a reckoning, and what happened next would leave the entire nation speechless. If you just felt that in your bones, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And if you believe in judges who see people, not power, hit subscribe right now. Because Frank Caprio fans, you're about to witness why the world calls him the conscience of America. Minutes earlier, this courtroom was just another stop on the daily parade of struggle. A bus driver pleading for extra time on a $38 ticket so he wouldn't lose his license and his job. A grandmother explaining how her oxygen tank made parallel parking impossible. Then the heavy doors swung open. A gust of winter wind, high heels clicking like rifle bolts on linoleum. Eleanor Whitmore entered like she owned the oxygen in the room. Tailored coat, phone held aloft, scrolling past a veteran's testimony like it was spam. Her offense? 3 parking citations outside City Hall. But the real charge, contempt, came after she turned her phone on Caprio mid-ruling, whispering to her assistant, "Film this. The internet's gonna love how senile he looks." This wasn't about traffic laws. It was about who gets to be seen. In a nation where wealth buys silence and power buys immunity, Caprio's courtroom, live-streamed to over 20 million viewers, had become sacred ground, where the janitor and the senator's wife stood on the same cracked tile floor. Where dignity wasn't inherited, it was earned, one honest answer at a time. Eleanor didn't just disrespect a judge. She tested the very idea that America still believes in one standard of justice. And Caprio? He wasn't just defending procedure, he was defending the soul of the system. Because if entitlement walks in here unchallenged, what's left for the rest of us? The gavel hadn't fallen yet, but the line had been drawn. And what happened next wouldn't just shock Providence. It would force an entire country to ask, whose side are you on? Eleanor Whitmore wasn't born cruel, she was born curated. Third-generation Virginia elite, raised in a Georgian mansion where the help used the back stairs and never made eye contact. Her childhood wasn't measured in birthdays, but in debutante balls, cotillions, and quiet lessons. Don't speak unless spoken to, unless you're correcting someone beneath you. Her mother's favorite phrase, "Manners are the armor of the well-bred." Translation, civility is a weapon, wielded to exclude, not include. At 24, she married Senator Richard Whitmore, not for love, but lineage. A merger of 2 dynasties, the Whitmores, who'd sent men to Congress since Reconstruction, and the Van Allens, whose name still graced a wing at Yale Law. Her title, senator's wife, became her entire identity. Not a profession, not a passion, a position. Her Instagram feed, flawless. Galas in D.C., yachts in Newport, charity luncheons where she cut ribbons but never ladled soup. Behind the filter? Texts leaked in a minor scandal years back. These town halls are exhausting. Do they really think policy is made by listening to them? Staff called her the iceberg, calm surface, deadly below. She once made an aide rebook a flight because the gate agent smelled like bus exhaust. To Eleanor, the world was a hierarchy, and she'd spent a lifetime learning how to stay at the top. Rules weren't principles. They were speed bumps for people without drivers. Compassion. A tax the weak paid to feel useful. She genuinely believed her husband kept America safe by writing laws that protected people like her. So when she walked into Caprio's courtroom, she didn't see a judge. She saw an obstacle, an aging municipal functionary who hadn't updated his suit since the Clinton administration. She didn't fear him. She pitied him. And that was her fatal miscalculation. Because in her gilded cage, no one had ever taught her the most dangerous truth of all. Kindness isn't weakness. It's a strategy. And patience, that's not passivity. That's the quiet accumulation of moral authority, waiting for the moment when the mask slips. And the world finally sees what's beneath, which is exactly what happened the second she opened her mouth. Because Judge Caprio? He'd been waiting 35 years for someone just like her. Frank Caprio didn't inherit power. He earned it, one pre-dawn shift at a time. Born in a 2-room apartment above a Providence bakery, the scent of rising dough his first lullaby. His father, Antonio, arrived from Sicily with $7 and a shoeshine kit. His mother, Rosa, stitched dresses in a sweatshop until her fingers bled, then came home and cooked for neighbors who'd missed a meal. They spoke Italian at the table, English at school, and gratitude in every prayer. Young Frank translated welfare forms for elderly immigrants, stood beside his father as he swept marble floors in the very city hall where he'd one day preside. He put himself through law school driving a cab, 3rd shift, memorizing case law between fares, scribbling notes on napkins stained with coffee and hope. Elected to the bench in 1985, he made a promise, not to voters, but to his parents. I will never let a person leave my courtroom feeling invisible. And he kept it. Not with grand pronouncements, but with small sacred acts, learning names, asking about children, waiving a fine for the single mom working nights, then slipping her $20 from his own pocket for the babysitter. When a grieving father couldn't speak, Caprio stepped down from the bench, hugged him, and whispered, "Take all the time you need." His fame exploded not from theatrics, but tenderness. Videos of him crying with a teen who stole bread for his siblings, or telling a homeless man, "You're not a case number. You're Frank, like me." He still lives in the same brick house he bought in '78, still drives that dented Corolla, still eats lunch at Angelo's Pizzeria, where he always pays for the veteran in the corner booth. His power isn't in volume, it's in presence, in the way he leans forward, hands folded, and says, "Tell me your story." Not to judge, to witness. 35 years, over 350,000 cases, and not once has he raised his voice in anger. Because Caprio knows what empires forget. True authority doesn't shout. It listens, until the silence breaks and truth walks in. And on that cold January morning, as Eleanor Whitmore smirked above her diamond bracelet, Caprio didn't see arrogance. He saw a child of privilege who'd never been taught the most American lesson of all, that dignity flows not from who you know, but from how deeply you're willing to see the person standing before you. And he was about to teach it, in the only language power understands, consequence wrapped in compassion. Eleanor straightened, as if preparing for a photo op, not a hearing. "This is absurd," she said, voice honeyed with condescension. "A parking ticket?" My husband was finalizing the appropriations bill. National security was on the line. Caprio remained still. "And the law, ma'am, was on the sign. No parking, tow-away zone." She waved a hand, dismissive, practiced. "I'll have my office forward a donation." "To your program." A pause. Then the trap sprung. "You know, Judge, with all due respect, shouldn't someone younger be handling cases like this?" Before the light starts fading, the gallery froze. A young mother covered her child's ears. Caprio didn't flinch, didn't sigh. He simply closed the case file, slowly, the sound like a tomb ceiling. Then, eyes locked on hers, "Mrs. Whitmore, you're no longer here for parking violations." His voice, low but resonant, filled every corner of the room. "You're here for contempt of court. Not for what you did, but for what you believed, that respect is optional, that dignity is negotiable, that in this house of justice, some people matter more than others." Her smile faltered. A flicker of doubt, quickly masked by defiance. "You'll regret this," she muttered. Caprio leaned forward just slightly. "No, ma'am. You will." And in that breath the tide turned. The room sensed it, the shift from confrontation to consequence. Because Caprio wasn't angry. He was resolved. And what came next wouldn't be punishment as the world knew it. It would be something far more terrifying to a woman who'd spent her life avoiding mirrors. A sentence designed not to break her spirit, but to reveal Caprio exhaled, just once, and the entire room leaned in. Not for volume, but for weight. Mrs. Whitmore, he began, voice calm as still water. You asked if I understand how the world works. So let's find out, together. He paused. Let the silence stretch taut as a wire. You will not pay a fine. You will not serve jail time. Instead, you will serve people. Eleanor stiffened. For the next 30 days, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., you will report to the Providence Community Kitchen. You will wear an apron. You will serve breakfast. You will listen, truly listen, to Maria, who works double shifts at the hospital and still can't afford her daughter's asthma inhaler. You will meet James, a Marine who served 2 tours in Iraq and now sleeps in his '98 Honda because the VA lost his file. You will wash the pots. You will sweep the floor. And on the 30th day, you will write me a letter. Not to me, to yourself. One question only. What did I learn about the people my husband writes laws for? A stunned silence. Then a sniffle. Then another. A teenage girl in the front row wiped her eyes. Caprio continued, softer now. Failed to appear once? I'll issue a warrant, but show up. Show up with your hands open, your heart unguarded, and you'll earn something no fundraiser, no gala, no Senate reception can buy, the quiet certainty that you are part of something larger than your name. He looked at her, not with scorn, but sorrow. You called me senile. Maybe I am, but I remember this. This country wasn't built by people who stood above the line. It was built by those who stood in it with calloused hands and clear eyes. Dignity isn't inherited, ma'am. It's practiced. Like grace, like mercy, like showing up, especially when no one's filming. Eleanor's knuckles whitened around her purse. Her breath came fast. She opened her mouth to protest, to plead, but no sound came. Because in that moment, she saw it. Not a judge on a bench, but a man holding up a mirror. And in its reflection, for the first time in her life, she didn't recognize herself. The gallery erupted, not in cheers, but in something deeper. Tears, nods, whispered amens. A veteran stood slowly, saluted, not the flag, but the man in the black robe. And as Caprio gently tapped his gavel, once, the world outside that courtroom would never hear the sentence. But it would soon feel its aftershock. Because this wasn't justice delayed, it was justice transformed. And what happened over the next month? That's when the real story began, and it would change everything. Within hours, the clip exploded. Judge Caprio sentences senator's wife to empathy. 14 million views by dawn. TikTok flooded with Serve with Caprio. Teens reenacting the sentence with soup ladles. Nurses, teachers, firefighters posting videos of their own quiet service. Memes spread, Eleanor's diamond bracelet photoshopped onto a dishwashing glove. But the tone wasn't mockery. It was invitation. Then day 7, a blurry photo surfaced. Eleanor Whitmore, hair tied back, sleeves rolled, serving scrambled eggs at the community kitchen. No sunglasses, no smirk, just a hesitant smile as Maria handed her a coffee. Day 15, she returned, voluntarily, again on day 22. By day 30, she submitted her letter, not to the court, but to the Providence Journal. Published in full. I thought public service was a title, she wrote. I didn't know it was a verb. That dignity isn't in the podium, it's in the pause before you speak. In the hand you hold when no cameras are rolling. Senator Whitmore, in a rare press statement, admitted, My wife's experience has reshaped our family's understanding of justice. We're expanding our office's constituent outreach, starting with listening tours in shelters and food banks. Even Caprio's fiercest critics were silent. Legal scholars called it restorative genius. Michelle Obama posted, This is how you heal a broken system, one act of radical seeing at a time. Veterans groups reported a 300% surge in volunteer signups. The community kitchen's donations tripled, and Caprio? He received over 12,000 letters. From a janitor in Detroit, You made me feel like a citizen, not a shadow. From a teen in El Paso, I'm undocumented. But today I stood taller, because someone like me mattered in your courtroom. The ripple became a wave. Cities from Seattle to Atlanta launched Caprio Days, community service initiatives tied to municipal courts. But the deepest tremor wasn't in policy. It was in perception. A nation exhausted by division glimpsed an alternative, not punishment as vengeance, but accountability as awakening. And as the world celebrated, one question lingered, unspoken, urgent. If one judge, in one small courtroom, could crack open a heart forged in privilege, what else might be possible? Because the sentence was served. But the revolution? That was just getting started. In a rare evening interview, bathed in the soft light of his home office, walls lined with photos of grandchildren, veterans, kids holding diplomas, Caprio leaned back, hands folded. People ask me why I didn't fine her. Why not shame her? He smiled, gentle but unyielding. Because shame closes doors. Service opens them. I didn't want her punished. I wanted her awake. That's the truth this moment revealed. Justice isn't a hammer. It's a key to the cages we build around others and ourselves. In a time when power shouts and dignity whispers, Caprio reminds us, the most revolutionary act isn't taking a stand. It's taking a knee, to listen, to serve, to see the sacred in the struggling. This isn't about one woman's redemption. It's about ours. Every time we choose empathy over eye roll, curiosity over contempt, we inherit the legacy of those who built America not with gold but with grit and grace.
Caprio's courtroom proves no title outranks humanity, no wealth outweighs worth, and the gavel's truest sound? Not the crack of authority, but the quiet click of a heart opening. So the next time someone tells you the system's too broken to fix, remember Providence. Remember the judge who believed and still believes that even the proudest soul can soften if met not with fury, but with faith. Because in the end, America isn't measured in laws passed, but in lives seen. And that's a sentence we can all serve and be proud to uphold. So yes, Senator's wife faced a shocking sentence, but the real shock wasn't the punishment, it was the mercy, the radical, unwavering belief that no one is beyond reach. Not the powerful, not the proud, not even those who've forgotten how to see others. Judge Caprio didn't just uphold the law, he reignited its soul. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that dignity is a verb, not a privilege, then do this. Hit subscribe. Not for spectacle, but for substance. For the stories that restore your faith in who we can be. And drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Because from Lagos to Los Angeles, from Manila to Minneapolis, we're building a community that believes justice should feel like grace, not a gate. Share this with someone who needs to hear. You matter. Your story matters. And no title, no wealth, no power erases your right to be seen. This is more than a channel. It's a movement. One courtroom, one kitchen, one act of courage at a time. Stay just, stay kind, stay American. And remember, the most patriotic thing you can do today is serve.